On today's episode of the Engage with Tech podcast, we're going to be talking to Andrew Hartshorn, who's Chief Marketing Officer of Nature's Way. We're actually going to be taking a bit of a step back from the tech industry and going to be looking at health and wellness and how it promotes a better professional work life. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hey Andrew, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you. It's great to have you on the Engage with Tech podcast, chatting about something outside of tech for once, really. So it's quite nice.
Excellent. I mean, I'm super excited to connect with you and chat about this. Obviously, we've been connected for a while now, but to have the opportunity to come and chat to you about this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've been following your fitness journey for probably about a year now, so it's good to have you on the podcast so you can talk through how it helps with work in your professional life, really.
Yeah, very excited. And I think it will be a fun time.
Yeah, it'll be good. Right, so should we just jump straight into it?
Yeah, let's jump into it.
I'm going to ask, what sparked your initial fitness journey then?
Yeah, I think like a lot of people, certainly when they're younger, they enter fitness through a performance sort of angle. So, you know, for most people, it's a sport that they're playing, and their connection to fitness comes from how do I become better at my sport, and the training is a support to the performance in the sport, and that was certainly the case for me. The first sport that I got really sort of serious about was martial arts, and there was a lot of flexibility, agility, movement, strength, sort of resilience associated with that. So the question I started asking myself was, how could I be better at my sport, and what was required from a fitness perspective to serve that sport. But then, as life goes on, and I'm a few more decades down the line than you are, but as life goes on, your motivation changes. So the fitness becomes in service of something different, but you're still doing the fitness to serve. But that was the entry point. Certainly, it was a performance angle and serving a sport.
I love that. So, what would you say your fitness serves now? Do you think
It's a great question, and it's I love questions that really sort of spark in your mind a crystallization of something, the starkness of 17, 18-year-old me when I would be going to these tournaments, and they would be up in Scotland or something, and you'd spend all day there, and you'd fight like 3 or 4 times. You'd be lying around waiting, and you'd jump up and train and fight. And then now the contrast now is me and my wife got married relatively late in life. We had a child relatively late, so I actually have a 20-month-year-old boy called Hayden, and in 20 years he's going to be 20 and I'm going to be a lot older. So my motivation now is really orientated around how do I maintain a level of sort of performance for life, such that I can be a role model, a father, and do things with him in the same way that I could have done 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So I want to be able to ski with him. I want to be able to, throw him over my shoulder and wrestle him when he's 14 or 15. And so, I'm back casting off that and saying, okay, that's going to be 15 years away. I need to be in such good shape now. And I literally think about, okay, what percentile do I want to be on some of these metrics now, so that I'm still performing at a really high level as he gets older. And it's a really powerful motivation when you have a little 20-month-old running around now, and you're thinking, I want to be here for him, in the forthcoming years, and being fit for him, but also being here for him. I mean, I don't want to be passing away from heart disease or anything else. So that the contrast of those different motivations is so stark, but really powerful for both of them.
I absolutely love that. And would you say there's a link there between your fitness and work as well? Would you say that fitness has potentially shaped your mindset and approach to work outside, your social and personal life?
Yeah, for sure. And there's two elements to that, I think. One is maybe more obvious. I mean, maybe they're both obvious, but one is the obvious point, which is we go to work for whatever it is, 8, 9 hours a day, 5 days a week. You're sitting in an office and you're doing work, and there's to perform a level where you're engaging with people and bringing your best self and bringing energy, bringing positive energy to that space. I believe really passionately requires a level of fitness, physical and mental fitness that enables you to perform best in there. I mean, people sort of separate the two in a lot of ways and think about physical fitness or as this separate entity. But the extent of our careers and how long we spend there and the energy it requires, I think requires you to be fit at work, to be your best self. I mean, of course you can be unfit, but you're not going to be literally delivering the sort of performance and energy and consistency in your role or in your career if you don't have the energy. And then the one that I think is maybe less obvious is just the habits it teaches you are almost identical in the sense the habits that are required for success in fitness are directly transferable to the habits that are required for success in the workplace. And two examples I would give you are one is the sort of incrementality of it, the consistency required in the incremental returns that you get through a regular fitness behavior. You see gradual changes. Same applies to work. It's not like you're going to go into work, you're going to smash a week and you're going to get promoted 3 times. It's like, no, there's a level of consistency over a period of time that will build on itself and you will progress through your career. So I think that that habit is a really important transferable one. And the second one is, as you think about fitness and your performance and your perspective, it's very easy to look, especially easy now, to look at others and say, wow, that person's progressed more than me. They haven't trained as long as me. I've been training ages. I don't look as good as them, or I've been training ages and I don't perform as well as them. Same thing goes for work. You can eat yourself up with distraction around, in the environments I've been in, we bring in a graduate class from some of the business schools all together. And what tends to happen is that graduate class all look at each other. It's like, well, person X got promoted. They came in at the same time as me. Person X got promoted. Why didn't I get promoted? They got promoted ahead. It's like, just concentrate on your own performance. Concentrate on, am I better than I was the day before? Look at how you're doing, and you'll not only probably progress better, but you'll be a lot happier as well, because you won't be eaten up by this comparison mindset. And those are two things that, if you engage in any type of physical activity on a regular basis, they're things that you will learn, and they're directly transferable to the workplace.
I love that. And I was actually watching it was a TikTok live, in fact, the other day with Higher Up Wellness. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure you would have heard of him.
Yeah.
And he was essentially saying that people get effort and the amount of time spent on something mixed up. So people believe that they have to expend a lot more effort than what is required versus the time.
Yeah.
He basically said, as long as you're consistent and you're making a step forward each day, you're going to be progressing in any area of life, any facet of life, whether that's fitness, whether that's in your career. I think that's such an important point.
I had when I came to Chicago, I started jiu-jitsu, and I had this awesome jiu-jitsu teacher called Dino Costillas, who was the first blue belt in Chicago, trained under Gracie's, and just this old school jiu-jitsu guy, with a strong Chicago accent. And after I'd been training about 6 months, and I sort of brought what am I supposed to be doing? How do I think about progressing faster sort of mentality? And I said to him one day, I said, any tips on sort of, my technique or how I can progress? And he looked at me and he just said, just keep turning up. And that's what he said. He was just like, just keep turning up, just keep coming every day and you'll get better. And at the time I was like, wow, that was, it seemed like scant advice. I was expecting a little more. And then about 4 years later, I was like, I get it. You just need the consistency.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have to be putting in 100% every single day.
No.
And that's probably contrary to people's beliefs, to be honest with you. People think that you've got to be putting in 100% every single day, whereas that's not right. If you turn up with 80% every day, that's better than turning up with 100% once a week, twice a week.
Totally. Yeah.
Perfect. So let's move on now to how fitness principles, these principles that you've spoken about already potentially, have contributed towards your corporate leadership, because you're chief marketing officer, so you obviously have a leadership role. So could you talk to me about those principles?
Yeah, I think in a leadership role, the team are looking towards you for some level of sort of consistency, balance, and steadiness. And to the point, I mentioned earlier, it's hard to bring those that level of sort of energy, consistency, balance, and performance if you're tired, if you're going through blood sugar roller coaster, or you're falling asleep at your desk at 4 o'clock. That sort of that leadership role that they're looking to you to fulfill is really hard. So I think that's a sort of the physical aspect of it, and then just modeling the behavior that you want in your team, which is a sort of persistence and resilience. I don't think any of our jobs now, in any sector that you work in, I think we all recognize things have become more complex, a faster pace. There's a higher expectation to be available all the time. It just puts a lot of pressure on the individual. And so I think sort of you modeling what you expect in your employees in terms of the discipline that's required to stay steady, stay focused on what you're doing. And then also, the small point of having that pull outside of work and having something which gives you the balance, again, is an important modeling behavior. Like, I hate the idea that my team would look at me and see me in the office till 8 p.m. every night, because what are they going to think? They're going to think, okay, for me to succeed in this environment, I need to stay in the office till 8 p.m. And how is that going to translate to them being professionally and personally successful and have sort of longevity in their career and feel energized? It's not. So I try and model what I expect from them, which is I expect them to work really in a focused, diligent manner in their office, but I also want them to have something and to be leaving at 5 o'clock and going off to do something. I don't want them sitting around. But it also speaks to the intensity with which they work. If they are there until 8 p.m. every night, it's doesn't speak to them sort of balancing things.
Yeah, it comes back to that work-life balance. It's paramount now, I think, especially after that's what people look for when they're looking for jobs. They're looking for a work-life balance.
Yep.
One of those things that is really desired.
Yeah.
So, could you potentially talk to me about overcoming setbacks with your marketing roles, and maybe the lessons that you've learned from your training and fitness, which has helped you with these business challenges?
Yeah. Yes. And this is another area that the overlaps and the parallels are remarkably consistent in two ways. One is the rate at which you progress varies very dramatically in in a sort of a pursuit of a sport or a pursuit of fitness. You can feel like for a sustained period of time you're not really making a ton of progress. Then you have these breakthrough moments, and the reality is the breakthrough moment was probably attributable to the 6 weeks prior to that when you were, struggling and plateauing, and there was some element of sort of plateauing that set you up for that breakthrough moment. And that's the same in work. You have really tough challenges. You feel like you're not getting anywhere. There's a degree of persistence that's required, and then you do have those breakthrough moments. And then the other sort of area of overlap, I think, is just in sport probably more so, but maybe in fitness as well. There's instances where you have pretty catastrophic injuries. You have a major setback. I know from following you had a serious injury when you're playing rugby, and that causes you to really think about some things that you want to do differently on the comeback. And the immediacy of the injury is devastating. And then you have a period of reflection, and you sort of think, okay, so what can I take from this, and how I rebuild myself and my approach to this in a different way. And again, that's very very similar in work. You can have a setback in your career, something that you launch can fail. A team can fall apart for a different reason. The business results aren't what you want them to be. So you have this sort of setback. And then, it's the same thing. It's like, okay, what did I learn from that setback? What am I going to do differently as a result? And going through those things outside of work gives you an opportunity to practice, be prepared, and put the things that happen in work in perspective. If you've never had those setbacks, or those meaningful sort of rebuilds, and that happens for the first time at work, I mean, of course you'll probably still manage, but you won't be able to reflect on it quite as quickly, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it comes back as well to those small increments. So setting yourself small goals that you can see as achievable everyday goals. It's like when I tore my ACL, the injury that you're talking about. I knew that it was going to be about 6 to 9 months worth of rehabilitation, but for me, that initial goal was literally just getting off my chair.
Yeah.
That was the initial goal, and it's about setting those small goals in business as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah, exactly. You only need to do have a success against a small goal on a cumulative basis. If you do that same thing, replicate it over day and day and day and day, that build, 3 months later, you've achieved the business, the big goal that you wanted to achieve.
And then it comes back to consistency as well. Then.
Yeah, yeah. Just turning up, doing the thing that you need to do at the 80%. Being sure that you can deliver what you can deliver.
Perfect. So, as we are a tech recruitment company, I thought I would talk to you about how technology has enhanced your own fitness journey, your personal fitness journey, and how it's optimized your fitness and optimized maybe other aspects of your life because of that.
Yeah, yeah. I think tech and fitness for me are probably one of the most exciting sort of areas of sport and the wellness industry, and I just think we're going to see tremendous amounts of innovation for at a high level, and then also for the consumer now. And we see some of that now. We see some of that now. Whoop bands or Aura rings or your Apple Watch or 8 Sleep. All of these things are capturing sort of basic biosensing data and giving you an indication of how you're performing. And then on the flip side, this sort of democratization of blood tests and data associated with that. In the US, that's a really big area of growth. There's a lot of platforms now that are consumer available, very reasonably priced. $500 and you get sort of 400 biomarkers once a year, 200 biomarkers twice a year, and you're getting that data into an app on your phone. Same with DEXA scans and VO2 max tests. You can integrate all this data into different platforms. And just, when I think my dad, he was, ran marathons or whatever, but had zero data on what his VO2 max was, what his bone density was, what his muscle mass was, what his cholesterol levels were, what his ApoB was, how he slept last night, what his HRV was, like none of that. And I mean, I just think that's going to continue to really grow in a meaningful way. And I think people that are interested in health and fitness and have skills in tech, I think it's going to be a really interesting space for them to, carve out a niche for themselves, because I just think there's going to be lots of innovation in there. The risk is, of course, and I think I'm probably guilty of this, is you have all these sensors on and you're sort of paralyzed with anxiety in the morning. You're like, oh, my sleep score's down 10% and my HRV is lower than it should be. Today's going to be a terrible day. So you just have to, take it with a pinch of salt. And even even at Gatorade, we spent some time looking at people's sweat. So what does sweat tell us about somebody's levels of hydration? And spent quite a bit of time working with a startup that was developing some skin sensors that you almost like a plaster band-aid that you would put on, and it had a groove cut into the patch that would fill a well that would fill with sweat, and depending on how much of the well filled, plus the color that it turned, because we had some chemicals in there that would react to different levels of sodium and potassium, it could give you an indication using a camera and an app of how much you'd sweated within a given period, by correlating humidity data and how much sodium potassium you'd lost in your sweat and what you needed to do to replace that sweat with. And that was really an added value. It was a commercial scalable proposition, but it was really about demonstrating expertise in the place. But it just gives you a sense of how brands and this space is becoming so vibrant with data.
Yeah, and I think that, like you say, it's growing, especially the advancement of AI. You're going to start to have personalized AI coaches, I think, now pretty soon, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That's it's an exciting place to be.
The good news for you is that the ones that exist at the moment, because there is one on my Whoop, are pretty awful. Yeah, I mean, you type in a little question and it gives you a pretty awful answer. So I think the sort of human skill on that is still way ahead of the intelligence.
And I do always think that people do look to humanize their fitness and health goals, to be honest with you. I don't think that AI will take away from that. I think people will want an emotional connection to their coaches.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's a lot. That's we haven't spoken about it, but a large part of sort of exercise and sport and that for people is some degree of community. The ability to connect with people, whether it's connecting with their coach or connecting with a group of people that they train with. That's a really important connection point for people.
And it's a big motivator as well.
Yeah.
Really big motivator. Okay, so we've spoken a lot about consistency and building habits, but for you personally, what would you say is the easiest way to be consistent in fitness and also in your career?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I think for me personally, consistency in the short term builds a habit pretty quickly. So it's really about that initial sort of period where you're trying to embed the habit. I've been sort of exercising in the morning now for just about all of my life. So for me, getting up and brushing my teeth is akin to getting up and going to the gym and doing something and getting a sweat on. But I appreciate for others it's not, and for me to do something different it wouldn't be. So the more important question is how you build it into that habit in the first place, and that is the tough part, which is getting some level of consistency in those first few days and those first few weeks, such that it does start to feel like a habit. Because once it feels like a habit, the momentum almost looks after itself. And I think those first few occasions and those first few times, sort of two things I would focus on is making the thing that you're going to do really achievable, because then you're building on success, you're building the habit. If you said to yourself, hey, I'm going to exercise for an hour and a half every morning, I'm starting tomorrow, that's really, really tough. So you're not going to build a habit like that, because 2 days in you're going to have stopped. If you say yourselves, hey, I'm going to for the next 2 weeks I'm going to walk for 15 minutes in the morning, achievable. Great. Now I've got a habit that is genuinely built in because I was able to achieve the thing that I set for myself. And then the second is just removing impediments to it. It sounds silly, but I always put my gym kit out the night before, which is my wife laughs at and thinks it's hilarious. But for me, it's just hey, there's no obstacle. Like I get up in the morning and just off I go, because I'm not thinking about, hey, where's my shorts, where's my socks, all that faffing around. I'm like straight into it. So just remove any friction to achieving to getting yourself in there in the morning.
Yeah, I'm sure you've read Atomic Habits by James Clear. That is a fantastic book for anyone starting new habits, and it talks about removing any type of friction like you're talking about, and it also talks about habit stacking and the role of small wins as well. Could you maybe expand on that for me?
Yeah, I just think finding ways to sort of capitalize on those individual things, those small things that give you the momentum that you're looking for is so important, because it's sort of a little bit like the example I was giving it. The achievement in those first few weeks is more important than the actual thing that you're doing, and so setting realistic goals and then sort of progressing from there is such an important part of creating momentum.
Yeah, and I think it's about pairing habits that you find easy to do at that point with something that you want to start as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, for example, very simple example would be if you want to start flossing, then you pair it with, brushing your teeth. And that's what brands have done in the past as well to promote that habit, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's such a powerful tool in marketing.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely, you're right. And that's a very relevant one. In the US, they're mad on flossing. They're all about flossing. And maybe they're on the UK. Yeah.
Not so much in the UK, probably.
No, I know. Whenever I go to the dentist here, they're like, "Oh, don't know what happened here." I was like, "Look, I grew up in England. I don't know what to tell you. I can't help you there."
Okay, so could you maybe give some practical tips for working professionals looking to build sustainable habits then? I know we've spoken about the habit stacking, about building consistency, but maybe some examples of small habits that they could start doing to improve their professional working life. So within their fitness.
Yeah, I mean, a big part is being realistic, and I alluded to that earlier. Start off and sit down, and just spend a little bit of time of what is achievable for me. How much time have I really got in a week? How much can I free up? Different seasons of your life, different things are achievable. If you've got kids, if you're got to commute into work, those things aren't going to change. So trying to build something in that is in contradiction or requires you to change those things doesn't set you up for success. So look at your schedule, look at your life, look at the commitments you have, and say, what can I feasibly give myself that makes this work? And hey, if you don't have a gym at home, but there's a gym near work, maybe it makes sense to leave the home 20 minutes earlier, and your commute becomes half an hour quicker because you've left 20 minutes earlier. Then you've got half an hour in the gym when you get to work before you walk into the office. That sort of workout in the morning, it seems like it's really look, hey, if you prefer to work out in the evening, that's the same thing applies, but it seems like it's in contradiction to everything else you're trying to do. I'm a busy parent, I've got a busy career, I'm spending an hour in the gym in the morning or whatever I'm doing. Like, I could be at work earlier, and achieving more. I've got all these emails waiting for me. The reality is the benefit you accrue, and the sort of the positive energy and the physical energy that you bring to your the rest of your life, to your family, to your partners, to your children, to your career, by spending that time, it seems selfish because it's you, but actually it's beneficial to them. We all know how we show up in those moments when we have done that, and when we're feeling like we've got the energy and the positive energy and the physicality, we show up so much better. I'm able to be a better parent to Hayden, my boy. I'm be a better a husband and a better leader for my team if I'm thinking about what I need to bring my best self to those situations.
I love that. So we've covered a lot in this podcast already, but if there was one key takeaway, one key thing that our candidates and clients can take away from this, what is one piece of advice you would give to someone looking to balance their career as well as fitness and health?
Yeah, I think it's just that recognition that almost the two are in service of each other. Often people feel like the two are competing with each other, which is, I can't do what I want to do in fitness or in sport because I have this demanding career. And that sets them up in competition against each other. The reality is they're both beneficial to each other. We just spoke about the benefits you get in your job from having that sort of energy and that external perspective. And I'm a great believer in having something that is different, a different focus for your mind, allows you to be more focused, in your career, because you bring a fresh perspective. And the same goes, vice versa. You couldn't spend the whole day in the gym, and that wouldn't be beneficial either. So I just think that idea that recognizing the two are helpful for each other versus in competition with each other, I think is a really key sort of understanding of what will benefit you long term.
That's brilliant, and I think that sums the whole podcast up perfectly. Thank you so much, Andrew, for your time.
Thank you. This has been so much fun. I always think that the test of a good podcast is you're like, wow, the time, have we finished already? The time's flown by so quickly. So really enjoyed chatting, and I appreciate the invite, and we'll have to do it again sometime.